who is unable to be here. So I'm going to try to share the screen. And hopefully it's going to share. The last one I did, it did not go to, it didn't scroll through as I was going through, so I'm not sure what happened with that. But anyway, what we're going to talk about today, chapter 2, it's about leisure education. So when we're talking about providing, excuse me, got a little excited up here. Talk about providing activities for our clientele, and that's what this course is about. How do we provide meaningful recreation therapy activities to our patients or clients? So not only does that include us standing in front and leading activities or games or having them do specific things, we also have an obligation, because of our background, because of our knowledge in the field, of providing some leisure education, because some of the people that we'll be dealing with don't have much leisure education. They may come from a background where they have not had the ability to do a lot of leisure activities. They don't know what's out there. They may not know how to do certain activities. So we're going to expose them to some different leisure outlets that they might not be aware that are there, and how to go about getting there. How much does it cost? What kind of equipment do you need to have? We need to look for things when we're talking about leisure education. If we're going to do an activity for someone who needs adaptations, we need to be able to look at each activity that we're talking about and see if a particular individual is going to need some sort of adaptive device or a change to the rules to be able to participate. Therefore, we need to be able to break down activities into smaller parts to see if they can actually do all of the pieces of the given activity that we're talking about. Y'all following so far on that? So as far as leisure education, we're going to talk about the importance of leisure as it relates to health and well-being. And that's when we're talking to our clients. And especially, I've seen this in psychiatric settings. I've seen this in especially drug and alcohol rehabilitation settings. They come in and they don't want to do anything. They are trying to detox. They don't want you talking to them. They don't want to do anything. You need to really be able to give them some positivity regarding leisure and how, hey, what we're going to be doing here is going to help you when you get out of this place. You need to know what's out there for appropriate outlets rather than drinking or drugs. So you're talking about replacing these inappropriate behaviors with things that you're going to give them education about. That's what it's all really comes down to. So we're going to list the factors that impact leisure participation. We'll get to that. We'll talk about some key concepts and some conceptual models. And that the conceptual models are the part that I was telling you do not overly excite me as far as when I'm talking to you about them. They are important. They give us a good framework to go by, where we don't have to start from scratch when we're planning things. If you use a model or theories that are already out there, you have something that you're basing what you're doing on without having to start from scratch and do every bit of work. Okay. So when we are talking about the importance of leisure, again, we need to stress to our patients that participation in leisure is something that will improve their quality of life. And this is how we're going to do it. So that's education up front right there. Life domains, you're talking about the amount of control of the individual. How much control do they have in their own situation, in their own life? Are they in an institution, let's say? Are they able to go out and do things on their own? Do they have a driver's license? Do they have money to go out and do things? Those things are going to affect the amount of control that that individual has. So that's kind of what we're talking about there. We need to get the point out that active leisure runs parallel with well-being. We all know that inactivity is not a positive thing, and that sitting around, not only does it affect your health, but what does it do to your mental state? If you just sit, don't do anything. I think we've all got a taste of this during this whole coronavirus deal. Is it good for the mental side of things? Not at all, not at all. So active leisure is something that we want to promote. Some of the things that are experiences that we can offer in leisure are stress coping. A lot of our patients are going to have stresses. They may be very different from, and that plays into where we talked about like individual program planning. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have different stressors in their life. For somebody, it may be drugs and alcohol. For somebody, it may be problems at home. For somebody, it may be money problems. For somebody, it may be depression. I mean, everybody has different things that they need to be able to cope with. And that's the thing that I like about recreation therapy in comparison to occupational therapy and physical therapy. And a lot of you are in line to try to go to OT, PT school, and that is wonderful. But the thing that I really like about therapeutic recreation, and the thing that really made me believe in it and stick with it, is that we're able to get into the mental side of things. We improve mood. We improve, we think about learning things and giving them skills that they can take forward. Whereas in occupational and physical therapy, it's all about, they've got a hurt shoulder. Let's prescribe these exercises and get that shoulder better. It's not about how they're feeling, what their mental state is and things like that. And we're able to, in recreation therapy, dive into the mental side of things. And I think that that's a positive, because it all plays together. When someone's in a better mental state, they're going to be more effective with the activities that you give them. Relaxation is also something you want to see from leisure. When we're telling people, hey, this is going to help you cope with your stress. This is going to help you relax. And obviously, if done the right way, leisure activities are going to be fun. So those are the things that we share to be able to bring our clients, our patients into the fold and ready to join in with what we're doing, to get them to buy into what we're selling. We need them to believe in what we're saying. Some factors that impact leisure participation. How much does the person value the leisure experience? What is leisure experience? Somebody tell me kind of what that means to you guys. It's really pretty simple. It's very broad. Okay.
I think finding something you enjoy doing and implementing that into therapeutic practice.
Yeah, finding something that you enjoy doing, basically when you are not obligated to do other things like work. Leisure is your free time that you're able to do the things that you like. So that's leisure in a nutshell. People need to value leisure and realize that positive things come out of a fulfilling leisure experience. Something else that plays into it. What is the person's ability to socially interact? I've seen situations, I'll jump in, y'all will hear me talk about the NMRC, which is where I worked for 20 years. And it was a facility for people with developmental disabilities. And they had a wide range of effects. You know, you had some that you couldn't tell the clients from the staff. They were super high functioning. They could talk just like you and I. They had nothing physical that you could look at them and even tell. All the way down to, we had one cottage where everyone is in a wheelchair. Most of them have feeding tubes. Very, very low skill levels to be able to interact socially. You know, you can't get much out of a lot of these clients. So what's their ability to socially interact? If somebody feels like they, okay, what are some things that can keep someone from being open to socially interacting? What's that? Yeah, absolutely. Anything else come to mind?
Mobility issues.
Absolutely. If they feel like they can't get to and get up in the group, that can be a problem. If someone can't hear very well, are they going to want to jump in and just get right in the middle of a conversation, knowing that they really can't hear? Same thing even with vision. You know, some people have, you know, social anxiety that plays into it. Things like that. What is their ability to socially interact? And these are things that can be worked on through therapeutic recreation, where kind of like, you know, systematic desensitization. You know, we're going to do this today. And as they start doing activities with others, they'll start to feel a little more comfortable moving forward. Each time they have a successful interaction with the group, they'll be more likely to want to jump in the next time. Then the next time, hopefully it's a little better. Now, if you have a situation where a patient doesn't have a positive interaction or a positive outcome, then that's something that you should probably take them aside after and talk to them about what went wrong. What can we do different? What can I do as a recreation therapist to make you feel more comfortable, because I want you to be part of this group. The ability to locate and utilize leisure resources. If someone is very low income, that could play a role. You know, they may not be able to join the YMCA and get into an exercise program. You know, they may not be able to go bowling. I mean, some people are on very, very strict monetary guidelines. Some people don't know what's out there. You know, when I worked at the Park Commission, I worked with a group of individuals that were 50 and older. I can say from experience that a lot of that group did not even really know what all was available out there as far as leisure. And what they did for leisure is basically what I provided for them through the Park Commission. You know, we had Pilates classes and yoga and aerobics and line dancing and cooking demonstrations and water aerobics. I mean, we did all sorts of things, and that gave them their leisure. They did not, prior to that all coming along, they were in this situation where they didn't really value their leisure experience, and they got to where they really enjoyed that interaction and being able to be with a group similar to themselves. Another thing that impacts leisure participation, skills and abilities to participate. Maybe somebody feels like, okay, they play pickleball is another thing that the Leisure Lifestyles group, that 50 and over group, they play pickleball every day. If you've never played before, would you feel comfortable? Some of you would. Would you feel comfortable just bebopping in there one day and say, hey, I want to play? With a bunch of folks that are in there every day playing competitively. I mean, they get after it. For, 65, 70-year-old people, they play hard. A lot of people wouldn't feel that they had the skills and abilities to just go jump in to something like that. When we're planning things for our participants, we need to make sure that the things that we plan for them to do fit their skills and abilities. If someone has significantly impaired upper body strength and they can't shoot a basketball 10 feet high, they just can't. But you want to work on strengthening that and working on that. Maybe you want to put them on a 6-foot goal adjustment. You're looking at their skills and abilities and basing our activities on what they can do. We look for their strengths and try to go with those and stay away from things that are weaknesses, because if they're not effective and they're not able to do what we're asking them to do, are they going to leave feeling good about themselves? No. Is that how we want them to leave a recreation therapy session? No. We want them to feel better about themselves. We want them to feel fulfilled. So we want to make sure that they're set up for success, yet challenged adequately. That's kind of the key. Conceptual definitions. Some of these are, as a recreation therapist, we are not counselors per se, but we do build a rapport with our clients. The places I've been, we're the favorite people, the favorite staff there. We're the ones they want to come see because we're the fun ones. We're going to do stuff with you. We're going to play games and trick you into getting better. Basically, if you're doing it the right way, that's really what you end up doing. They need to know that we are their advocate. We talk to them up front that we will go into the team meetings and say, this is what I see from them in recreation. This is what I know they can do. This is how, you get chances to talk with the other groups, nursing, physicians, all of the other groups. You have a chance to talk with them and you're going to advocate for them. So you let the patients know that you're going to be willing to do that for them. Recreational counseling, that's a lot of, what we've talked about before. What can they do? What's going to be available? We find out what they want to do as far as recreation, what they can do and what they're not comfortable doing. Leisure counseling, much the same. This is where we're trying to help them to understand the importance of leisure, is a lot of what this plays into. Now, the book goes into a lot more detail on this, but that's the kind of the bottom line on it. Leisure education, we already talked about that, and that's where we're showing them what's available. It may even be one of our clients comes to us and says, hey, I want to play pickleball, but I don't know anything about it. So leisure education, that would fit right there. We could sit down with them and say, okay, well, here's the rules. I don't want you to go in here blind. You're going to use this paddle, and you cannot get inside of this box. When you serve, you have to do that. You run through the rules. They understand. You are educating them on a leisure activity. So it's part of our creed as a recreation therapist to do these things, even though, it has counseling and education. We're not a teacher. We're not a counselor, but we can play that role. So here's some of these conceptual models that we talked about. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each one, but I am going to run through them because when we do the test, some of these will be on the test. So it's something that you can go back through in the book on these. But Over's advocational model, let me move this out of my way. What it is about is matching the client's abilities and skills with available and accessible resources. that's important. I mean, we don't need to be teaching them all about skydiving if they don't have resources, or we don't have resources to get them there to go skydiving. That's a little over the top example, but it's it is an example. We need to make sure that what the client's abilities and skills are matched with the activities that are going to be shown to them, that are going to be provided to them. And one thing that is used for this model is this Miranda Leisure Interest Finder. That's something that we will probably get into and talk about in the class that follows this one, where we talk about assessments. So we may make it a point to look into that, since we're talking about that in this course. Okay, Hayes Leisure Education and Recreation Counseling Model. There are 9 steps of implementation, and I apologize, but there's no way I can remember all these, so I have to pretty much read these to you too much. The 9 steps of the implementation in this model. Entry in program, facility, or institution. You're going to have your initial contact. Then you're going to have consultation with the rehabilitation team, where you kind of come up with a plan. This person needs this. We can provide this. Well, we can provide this. You have the different groups working together for the betterment of the patient. You want to develop individualized, note that again, individualized programs to enhance individual and group skills, working with a group, and individual skills. You're going to give leisure education, recreation counseling service, where you are telling them what's available, helping them to self-actualize and realize that they're able to do these things that you're going to offer them, because a lot of them aren't going to have very high self-esteem or belief in their self. So they need you to, through this counseling, to help them believe in their self. That's kind of where that plays in. Now, a lot of places are short term, where the patients come in and then they leave, and then you get new patients. And so what we want to do, and we've talked about this in other classes, and some of you have been in there, we've talked about least restrictive environment. Where do we want our patients to be if they can? Do we want them in an institution? Do we want them home if they can be at home? Absolutely. So if they get to the point where they don't need to be under our care anymore, we need to discharge them. But when we do that, do we want to just say, all right, good job, high five, see ya? No, we want to leave them with something that they can take with them. So we're talking about, you obtain consensus for discharge plans. That's, what are we going to do as recreation therapists? What does the dietary group have to say about how they should continue with eating? What does physical therapy say about any issues that they had there? What does nursing think? What does the doctor say? We have everybody all together coming up with a consensus for discharge plans. And then there's the discharge. In that, they are, given information where they can get follow-up assistance and even visitations if necessary. I've never been in a situation where we would discharge people and then I would have visitations with them. The places where where I worked for 20 years was a long-term facility, and the patients were pretty much there. If they were discharged from us, they went to a community home or a supervised apartment where they already had someone who was going to be there with them. So they did not need me to come in and follow up. They already had someone that was looking out for their leisure recreation plans. Then there's evaluation assessment of community involvement to see how well the patient is doing once they are discharged. Someone, a social worker or something like that, a lot of times will look to make sure that they are adjusting to their new environment post-discharge. And then there's a termination or suggested remedial or alternative plan of action. That is, if they're doing great, That's where you have termination. If you see that they're struggling out in the wild, once they've gotten out of your care, do they need some more services? Do they need to come back, or can they be discharged? That's what that part is of this model. All right, another one. Aren't these fun? No, not so much, right? Okay. McDowell's leisure counseling model. There's a hierarchy of 4 leisure counseling orientations. Leisure-related behavior concerns. And it has interruptive here. A lot of times I saw where, when I was working at NMRC, we're talking about people with developmental disabilities, and we had a lot of interrupted leisure sessions because of inappropriate behavior and loud noises and people leaving the area and things like that. So you need to cover those things first to be able to kind of nip that in the bud where you can have effective therapy interventions. Then here we are again. A lot of this stuff overlaps. You see how a lot of it is very much similar. Leisure lifestyle awareness, you're going to talk with them and see how much they do understand the importance of leisure, how much they understand about what's available to them, how much do they understand the cost of doing certain things, do they know how to get to specific leisure outlets that they want to, you know, do they understand that there's a bus route that they can get a ride from here to there. If they're scared to drive after dark, what do? You give them that sort of information. Leisure resource guidance, that's the same thread of what I was just saying. You make sure that they have phone numbers that they need for rides, schedules of events, things like that. And then leisure related skills and concerns. And you're going to hear that from the patients themselves. You know, you ask them, so if we're going to do this program, what are some things that may worry you about this? And they'll tell us, you know, well, you're talking about going to the Mayan pyramid and climbing to the top, and I can't really walk that well. See, I go over the top with my examples, okay? But that would be something that they would say, I don't know if this is a good trip for me because I can't really climb steps. Those are the kind of things that would be found out there. All right, this one looks fun. Monday's leisure education model, okay? There's 2 different models involved here. Scope and sequence model, the 6 categories of focus are self-awareness. That's where you get them to look at themselves and see what they actually enjoy, what they don't enjoy, what they feel like they need, where they need help, things like that. Leisure awareness, we've talked about that. We're giving them, these are some things that I think would be a great fit for you. This is how you get there. This is how you do it. You talk about their attitudes regarding leisure, recreation, decision-making, social interaction. What is their level of social interaction? Do they want to increase that? If so, how are we going to do that? And leisure activity skills. Do they have the skills to do what they need to do? The systems approach model has 5 components, and it talks about leisure awareness. We've already talked about that. Self-awareness, we've covered that. Decision making. Are they able to make decisions for themselves regarding leisure and recreation activities? If they are, you need to let them. That falls right in with least restrictive environment and letting them be as independent as possible. They need to make decisions as many as they can. Leisure skills, you're looking to see what they are currently good at and what they would like to do moving forward. And social interaction, we talked about that. Where are they now? Where do they want to be? How can we affect that through recreation therapy? We're getting there, guys. Peterson and Gunn's leisure education content model, there's 4 components, and let's see how these, again, they cross over. They're very similar. The 4 components are leisure awareness, which we talk about what's out there. Leisure resources, these are the things that you use to participate in the leisure. Social interaction skills, where are they, where do they need to be, where do you want them to be? And leisure activity skills. We've talked about all these in the prior ones. I'm not going to go back through them again. Datillo's model of leisure education. I promise every class is not going to be like this, guys. I told you we would have to wade through this one. They're not all going to be this way, I promise. 7 content areas of Datillo's model of leisure education. Number 1, to appreciate leisure. I think everyone should. Some people don't. Like I said, with my oldies that I worked with the Park Commission, a lot of them really didn't appreciate leisure and make the most of leisure. And you know, the thing about it for us in this room, whether you realize it or not, leisure is a big part in that recharge. Even if leisure for you is reading a book. When everybody goes to sleep in my house, that's when I'm wide open. And that is by design, because I need some time by myself to decompress. And I got a couple little games I play on my phone. I know I'm old and all, but hey, I still do it. I watch Sports Center. I'll watch Netflix, whatever. That is leisure to me, and that is a recharge for me. And I may stay up late doing that and be tired the next day, but that is still worth it to me because it's important. And I have to have that time for myself or I will go nuts. When you got 3 little boys, 2, 5, and 7, you have to find something to bring sanity back into your life. To be aware of self in leisure is another content area. To be self-determined in leisure, that's where you make choices about what you're going to do as far as leisure and recreation. To interact socially during leisure, that's a big part of it, and that's what makes it fulfilling for a lot of people. Some people don't want their leisure time to be spent with in a large group or working with others. They want their leisure time to be individual, and that's fine too. But the majority of people like to interact socially during leisure. To use resources facilitating leisure. What are some things that are here that we can use? Sometimes you have to think outside of the box and come up with some ideas of things that we can use for recreation activities, especially if you work at a facility that doesn't have a large budget or they don't give you a big budget for recreation. You may have to be creative and come up with, some games and activities that your people can do that don't cost much money. So you have to go with the resources that you have available. Kelly here was in one of my former classes, and I had them all come up with basically recreation ideas that don't really cost any money, that use everyday sort of equipment. And I think it was you that did bowling. Did you do bowling? If you can't afford to get to the bowling alley, or if you don't have transportation to get there, and if these people are at a, say a Alzheimer's ward or somewhere where they're not, the VA, if they wanted to bowl, it's not feasible right now to load them all up and take them to the bowling alley. COVID, just everything there. But if you got some people that like to bowl, what could they do, Kelly? Get some 2-liter bottles, put some water in them, have you just a basketball. Now, according to how well they can, control muscles and all, it would affect how long of a lane you set up for them, things like that. The more water in the bottles, the harder they're going to be to knock over. The less water in them, the easier they'll fall. You could set up a bowling pins and roll a basketball. Sometimes it's as easy as if you've got a group that is immobile, elderly, you could have them around the table and say, all right, here's a balloon, don't let it touch the floor. Boom, 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 boom. And it's a bunch of people who are sitting in there like, I don't want to do anything. But after about 10 minutes, man, they're about falling out of their chairs, swinging at it and laughing. What have you spent for that activity? 20 cents for a balloon? I mean, you know, think outside the box. Acquire recreation activity skills. That's something else in this model that we really do. I saw that when I worked with Special Olympics. That fit right in with therapeutic recreation to me. I was able to work with, as a coach, and we worked specifically on recreation activity skills. You know, I coached the golf team at nationals. We actually went out and we practiced and we worked on putting and we hit off the driving range and we did drills, you know, to prepare them. We were working on specific recreational activity skills to help them get better. Okay, Stumbo and Peterson leisure content model. There's 4 content areas: leisure awareness, social interaction skills, leisure skills development, leisure resources. As far as leisure awareness, we want to make sure they have a knowledge of leisure, that they're self-aware of where they, you know, we talk to them about what do you enjoy doing? Things like that. That's basically finding that self-awareness. We find their leisure and play attitudes. That can be done through leisure assessments. You know, we're in 372. This is about procedures. 388 is about assessments. And we talk more about finding out attitudes by using things like assessments. So we'll talk about those things in that course. Leisure, participatory, and decision-making skills. Is your client able to make decisions about, you know, sensible decisions, timely decisions about what recreation and leisure activities they're going to be doing? Social interaction skills. What sort of communication skills do they have? Are they verbal, nonverbal? Do they have a really bad stutter? Does that make them shy? That could be a situation where they don't want to become, you know, a big part of a social group because they have a stutter. And that makes them self-conscious. If they, you know, if we can work to ease them in and they see that everybody is not making fun of them and everybody is cool with them, that are they going to feel better about themselves? Absolutely. Are they going to have more confidence moving forward? Absolutely. Now, we're not a speech therapist, but we can make them feel more comfortable by finding acceptance within a group if we promote that in the group. Relationship building skills. You know, what sort of skills do they have to build relationships? Self-presentation skills. Do they present themselves in an appropriate manner as far as doing group activities? I've had situations where I was doing activities and everybody was bought into it except for this one person that just was a troublemaker in the corner and always wanted to just kind of sabotage what you're doing. That's a situation where their self-presentation skills weren't too great. As far as leisure skills development, there's traditional and non-traditional activities. You know, traditional activities are the things that just come straight to mind. You know, when you think about leisure, you know, reading, bowling, basketball, going for a hike, things like that. That is very traditional activities. You know, bingo. Now, if you wanted non-traditional activities are going to be some of these more advanced things that people would have to, where you'd have to teach them the skills to be able to play these things. Okay, leisure resources. What activity opportunities are out there? Okay, what is the person's personal resources? Again, do they have a car? Are they able to drive? Do they have money to do the entry fee to get into these places? Family and home resources. Where do they live? What sort of home environment do they have? What kind of support do they have at home? Community resources. You tell them what is out there in the community to help support them. And you also are going to share any state and national resources that you come across. Any legislations that are going to help them. Things like that. So, for lack of a better way to put it, that was a lot of information. A lot of it was very similar in nature. It's just a bunch of different models that people came up with that can kind of be followed when you're building a recreation therapy program and rapport with your clients. A lot of that, this one is about getting to know your patients, getting to know what they need, setting them up for success while they're with you as well as when they leave your care, and teaching them skills that they can use in the future. Also letting them know what is out there once they are out of your care, where they and how to access things that they like to do for recreation. Especially important for groups like the drug and alcohol rehabilitation. They're going to be there short term. What you want to provide them with are replacement activities. During the time you have them, you need to be teaching them some things that they can do that are positive, some things that you really find out what they enjoy doing other than drugs and drinking. And you try to drill that into their head that this is what you need to do when you feel this way. Important stuff that you're sending out with them on the way out. So we learned that leisure is important to health and well-being. Leisure education, intervention, research on a number of groups who receive therapeutic recreation services is growing in popularity. The leisure education content model focuses on 4 areas, and we talked about those: leisure awareness, social interaction skills, leisure development skills, and leisure resources. And most leisure education research shows promising results in achieving participant outcomes. So basically, none of these that we went over today are wrong, and not one of them is absolutely right. These are all conceptual, they're all models. There's parts of all of them that have merit. You can draw pieces from each one of those. You don't have to follow any of these things, but this is a situation where if you're starting into the field, it gives you something where you're not starting from scratch and you're not sitting there like, what do I do first? Because it gave you some frameworks where there was one in particular where it talks about, intake, you get to meet the client, then you're going to make a plan, then you're going to, all that good stuff. It gives you something that you can build on moving forward. All right, I'm going to stop that share. So next class, we're going to jump into chapter 3, and hopefully, I think chapter 3 is a little shorter, a little easier. I'm going to try to come up with something kind of fun again for us to do. I want to, before long, I'm going to do a few of these activities and things just to kind of break the monotony. Before long, I'm going to let y'all start doing some of these, coming up with some ideas, but I'll post it on Blackboard. We'll talk about it in here. I'll make sure that you know the dates and everything for that. But otherwise, look at chapter 3. Read that chapter if you will. And I will see you guys on Thursday. You guys have a good day. And the ones of you that are in the next class, have a good rest until we start up again.